Hi guys, it's me, KazarHD, and welcome to day 2 of pre-season testing in 2024 here at the Sakhir circuit in Bahrain. And the biggest headline of the day so far, as we are just over 2 hours away from the end of day 2, the biggest story of the today is Ferrari and their stunning pace that they have shown so far and have been showing in the last hour or so with Carlos Sainz, who is currently quickest and has done the best lap time by far of pre-season testing of a 1:29.9 on the C4 compound, which is one of the soft compound tyres, and that is only 2/10 of a second away from pole position at last year's Bahrain Grand Prix. It's nearly 1.5 seconds quicker than Max Verstappen went yesterday in the Red Bull. So, after yesterday, where we were deflated, let's say, from Max's amazing lap time and Red Bull's seemingly amazing pace, Ferrari have struck back and have shown that actually they have got, at least with also their quali pace, they've got a quick car, and we'll see when Red Bull eventually do respond, whether it's with Sergio Perez in the final couple hours of today or with Perez or Verstappen tomorrow. We'll see what Red Bull are able to do and what they lap time wise can do compared to Ferrari. But yeah, that is by far the headline of the day, Ferrari's pace, and Ferrari definitely looking as though they've got, at minimum, the second best car on the grid. And who knows how close it is to the Red Bull. F1 below Sainz has done their best lap time on the C3 compound, except for Logan Sargent and Esteban Ocon, who have done their best times respectively on the C4 and C1 compound. Talking of Esteban Ocon, currently out on track on a set of C1 tyres. So yeah, it's been it's not been a great day in terms of action, other than what Carlos Sainz has been doing in the last hour or so. We did have quite a disrupted morning session because of I think, a drain cover that had come loose on the curb going into turn 11 that Ocon is just coming through now on looks like a long run of his in the Alpine car. So yeah, other than that, it's been a pretty settled day. Reliability has looked fine for everyone, really. Red Bull did have a slight scare with Sergio Perez, I think like half an hour or so ago, where he had to coast back to the pits. But yeah, F1 seems to be doing just about okay. And hopefully in these final couple hours, we'll get some more lower fueled runs and we'll really get to see what the or what not what the genuine pace is, because we'll find out a lot more about that tomorrow. But we obviously want to understand more about what the genuine pace is, as Ocon just continuing on, Valtteri Bottas continuing on in Sauber, as well as we're looking at the Mercedes. Mercedes, no, it's the Williams of Logan Sargent breaking hard into one on the C3 compound of tyre. But yeah, we'll see who decides to go for a bit of a quicker run in these final couple hours. If you are wondering why there are 2 hours and 5 minutes left on the clock, even though testing is supposed to finish at 4 p.m. UK time, which is less than 2 hours from now, I believe the FIA want to do some checks on their systems, the red flag systems and virtual safety car stuff, just some procedural stuff, so they can get a test of that before first Grand Prix next weekend. Bahrain, I think, is race run, I think, doing at the moment. But yeah, we still don't have, I would say, the greatest idea as to what the field is looking like at the moment. We have probably a third of the puzzle, I think, at the moment. At best, I would say. We have, you know, Probably Red Bull, you would still say, until, proven otherwise, Red Bull still have probably the best car. Ferrari, I think comfortably look to me second with what they've got. Haas probably going to have the worst car. Racing Bulls look like they've got a car that might be in the mix with McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin to a certain extent. But other than that, we don't really know much else about what is going to be the pecking order for at least the start of the season going into next weekend's race in Bahrain. So we're getting there. Like I said, I'm pretty sure the two best teams so far are Red Bull and Ferrari. I would be surprised if McLaren, Mercedes, or Aston Martin are suddenly going much quicker than they've gone so far. But we'll see. There is still plenty of time for us to be proven wrong, as Sergio Perez in his Bull is getting belted into his car. Currently looking at the Racing Bull car of Daniel Ricciardo, who opens the DRS and looks like this might be a quick run for Ricciardo, who of course was very, very quick yesterday. And it was, in general, yesterday, a very good day for Racing Bulls. They looked like they were not on the same pace as, say, Ferrari necessarily, but they looked like they weren't that far away, which for them is a good accomplishment. See what Ricciardo does for his first sector. Personal best, but still pretty slow. Ricciardo coming through the hairpin of turn 8. Yeah, does look pretty good to drive for what you'd have to still say is a midfield car until we find out any more evidence that maybe they could be front runners. As Daniel Ricciardo coming through turn 11, car looks very comfortable through there for the middle sector. Another personal best, but not very quick. 2.3 seconds off the pace. So this lap time is what? It's probably going to put him into the top 10, but it's not going to, not going to be as good of a lap time as what we saw yesterday from him. I think yesterday he did a 132, was it? Something like that. And he just does a 133. One actually stays in 11th position, does Ricciardo. Let me just quickly state gap for Daniel, as he's now 3.1 seconds off the pace. Yeah, there you go. As we're now looking at Valtteri Bottas on the C3 compound of tyre. By the way, forgot to say hello to you guys. Hopefully you're all doing well on this Thursday afternoon for me. And no matter what time it is in your part of the world, where you're from, hope you're all having as safe and as good a time as possible. Great to have you all along for day 2 of testing. And I've got to say, pre-season testing this year feels like it's going by very quickly. Because, yeah, only got one more day after this final 2 hours. Valtteri Bottas, yeah, race run. Green, horrible livery salver. We've got Lando Norris and Sergio Perez on outlaps. In regards to Carlos Sainz's best time, by the way, of a 1:29.9, again, that was done on the C4 compound. Lando Norris at second, 1.3 seconds down. He did his best time on the C3. There should be a 5 to 6 tenths of a second gap between the C4 and the C3. But do remember, Lando Norris, let me rephrase that. Not Lando Norris. McLaren have not selected for this test any C4 or C5 tyres. So the C3 is the softest tyre McLaren have. And the reason that is because for the Bahrain Grand Prix next week, the tyre compounds are going to be the C3, C2, and C1. So understandable why McLaren are wanting to focus a lot more on first Grand Prix rather than testing out all the tyres when, especially, a set of C5 tyres won't matter too much, how they do on them at the moment, because we're not going to see the C5 tyres for probably a bit, and probably not that much over the course of the season. Sergio Perez looks like he's out there on a set of C2. C2? No, C3 tyres it is, actually. Lando Norris just came through the pit lane and came back out again. Sun beginning to set. And this is definitely the best part of the pre-season testing day. And I cannot wait, especially for tomorrow. Perez opens the DRS. We'll see if this is going to be a quick time from Perez. Yeah, this time tomorrow, I'm really expecting it to get exciting. You'll know that on the final day of testing, the teams push a lot harder. Sergio Perez motoring his way up. Turn 4, and yeah, this does look like a low-fueled run. Perez for the first sector. Third of a second off. Carlos Sainz. Remember, though, Perez on a tyre that is 5 to 6 tenths of a second slower than the one that Sainz was on. So this isn't necessarily going to go quickest, given the compound that Checo is on. But in terms of the handling, the Red Bull looks good. No issues at all. And looking at the onboard lap of Max Verstappen's best time yesterday, the scariest thing about that lap from yesterday was Max wasn't even pushing. He was really just guiding the car around for the lap time it did. I think, as a driver, he could have pushed a lot harder if he wanted. So that's why I'm still skeptical as to, have Ferrari got genuinely a quick enough car to be quicker than Red Bull? Because Red Bull, I think, still got something good there. As Sergio Perez goes third with that time. Not a great lap, but an improvement nonetheless from Sergio Perez. Let me just quickly update. Just quickly update what the gap is. Oscar, is it on track? Nope. We're looking at Lando Norris on a new lap by looks of it. So Perez 1.5 seconds off. So yeah, Red Bull definitely not pushing anywhere near as hard as Ferrari were an hour or so ago. But as I said, it's improvement nonetheless from Sergio Perez. And as we go through, guys, the final couple hours here of day 2, if you have any comments you want to post in the chat and any thoughts you want to let me know of what you think's going on, how you think the teams are doing, make sure to post it in the chat. And I will get to some of your comments through stream, because, of course, we are going to have our dull moments at times. Make sure to post your thoughts. Lando Norris is on a race run on the medium compound tyre. In terms of, though, what we've seen so far of the handling of the cars, the Red Bull looks good. The Ferrari, it looks like it's, it's got good grip, but it does seem a bit more oversteery than the Red Bull, and even more than, the McLaren and the Aston Martin. The front end, though, is very sharp. It's a very, very good front end on that Ferrari car, which is definitely more so suiting to their number one driver, Charles Leclerc, because that's the type of car he prefers more so than what they had last year, which was a bit more of an understeery Ferrari car. And then, yeah, the McLaren looks very balanced. Mercedes yesterday looked balanced. Lewis Hamilton, though, an hour or so ago, I saw him on a lap and he had a bit of oversteer, a couple corners, and it's great. But I've not seen too much of Hamilton today, to be honest. Aston Martin's car looks very balanced. So does the Racing Bull car. The Williams has looked a bit of a handful. The Haas, we can't tell anything about the Haas because they've not even attempted a quick lap. The Sauber seems okay. And then, yeah, the Alpine also okay. Pierre Gasly did do a decent lap time at the end of day one yesterday. So, yeah, I'd say that's how it all looks so far. But like I said a few minutes ago, we still haven't got quite there to, knowing what the puzzle is for 2024. I wouldn't even say we are halfway there quite yet. Hopefully, we'll be halfway there by the end of this day two. But obviously, yes, tomorrow we'll find out a lot more. Even by just the morning session, we'll know a lot more. On the TV broadcast, Sam Collins for F1 TV is doing a technical analysis of the Haas car, which should be bringing up the rear of the field in 2024. With F1 Gaming saying Bottas to get sacked at the end of the season along with many others. If he continues how he's been performing the last couple of years, I think he'll be fine, to be honest. Vince, this is 9 a.m. in Florida. Thanks for being here, Chazza. No problem. And also saying looks like Max's best time yesterday is what Perez's time is today. And also Vince is saying I like the RB. RB Power saying sandbagging from multiple teams. As I've said, many years now, and I've been doing these testing watch-alongs for the past 4 years. Every team is sandbagging. Just some are more than others. The top teams, especially, are sandbagging. More than say a couple midfield teams are. To be honest, though, if you look at the last few years, you do get an understanding of what teams tend to hide their true pace more than others. For example, Red Bull, they do tend to be quite conservative with practice sessions and testing compared to what their real pace is like. Mercedes also are like that. Ferrari can sometimes be a bit more aggressive on certain occasions, but some other times they can be a bit more conservative. The Racing Bull team that was AlphaTauri, of course, before, they tend to be one of the most aggressive teams in testing. I remember in 2021, they ended up having one of the best lap times, and they were consistently one of the quickest in testing. And to be fair, turned up with a pretty quick car at the first race. I think they qualified 5th, but it wasn't their true pace. Hello to Rook. Hello to McLaren from Racing. As I said, hello to everyone. Yeah, I hope you're all doing well. And for everyone watching as well, make sure to smash that like button. Let's try and get over 20 likes if we can. Next half an hour or so. And of course, you are wondering what my plan for tomorrow is, the final day of preseason testing. I will be live at a bit of an earlier time of 11:30 a.m. UK time, which is halfway through the lunch break in between the morning and afternoon session, and I will be going live for a build up to the afternoon session where we'll try and look through some data from testing so far. And then I will be covering the entire afternoon session from 12 p.m. till 4 p.m. UK time. Further updates on what the plan of content after tomorrow's day 3 watch along is in the latter part of this stream. And Carlos Sainz out on track, E3 compound, and Ferrari probably won't bother with another run as quick as what they did earlier. That they've done their best time of the day. Quite impressive though, only 0.2 of a second off pole, and to be fair to Carlos Sainz, he's not as quick as Leclerc. So it really does. You're especially out there if you're a Ferrari fan, it really does get you thinking, what could they do in Bahrain next week? At least in qualifying. But again, Red Bull, we'll have to see what their response is between now and the end of pre-season testing. Carlos Sainz race run. And on the race runs, the Ferrari looks a bit more stable to me than last year's car, but still, I wouldn't say that great. I think their race pace probably is still going to be an issue to a certain extent. But according to the drivers, a lot of things from last year's car that were bad have been improved upon, such as the sensitivity to the wind, the feeling general on heavier fuel is better, and just more consistent level of grip this Ferrari car has. So it is definitely a step up on the Ferrari car from this time last year. There is no doubt about that. And I think Ferrari, at the minute, until Red Bull show us any different, I think Ferrari have got a decent chance at least of pole position for the Bahrain Grand Prix next Friday. Remember, qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix on a Friday, race day on a Saturday. Yeah, I think Ferrari, I think they've got a good chance of pole position. In terms of, though, the race win, again, who knows? But I think Ferrari have definitely got something better than what we saw a year ago. I'll look at the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. Lance Stroll also on a race run here. Currently in 5th place. Stroll's had a good testing program so far. Difficult really to know Aston Martin, and probably the most difficult to read at the minute, or one of the most difficult to read at the minute, is Aston Martin in terms of where they're at, because, with them and also Mercedes, they haven't really pushed that hard so far. So, yeah, it is difficult to know whereabouts they're at. Just wanted to say, by the way, quickly, before this possibly happens, it is raining quite hard outside my house. So if the stream does, for whatever reason, cut off for a minute or so, or a few seconds because of that, please do bear with me. But yeah, the weather in the UK not great, so it might be a momentary issue. But let's hope not in the next hour and 40. Laurie Rastogi saying Alpha should have signed Paul Chair. Yep, I agree. Rook saying I've missed segments. Was it Sargent and Science who've set times on the soft? Yeah. Both on the C4 compound. Sergio Perez. Through. And also very noticeable today that the level of grip at the track has improved a lot compared to yesterday, which is not a surprise. Very little running. the past few months on this track, and it was going to be difficult yesterday. But yeah, the cars look a lot more gripped up to the track. I've got to say as well, and we won't really fully see this until the Bahrain Grand Prix next week, but these cars visibly, compared to a year ago, look a lot quicker. And you can really see how these cars are really developing now. And I think pole position in Bahrain in a week, just over a week's time, is probably going to be a, what, at worst, a low 129, probably maybe even a 128 something, which is very quick. Perez here getting a bit up behind the Sauber of Valtteri Bottas. Sergio Perez, who from Bahrain's not necessarily been the greatest circuit for Perez over the years. He's had some good races here, but he's had some others that have not been that good. Obviously, had a podium here in 2014 for Force India, his first podium for Force India, and his third race for the was on the podium last year. But yeah, there's been some races here where he's not quite been at it. Obviously, did win here in 2020 on that alternate layout. Amazing Sakhir Grand Prix. Perez following dirty air. Bottas is actually on an outlap. Quite a bit of trouble here. Probably overtake Valtteri into turn number one, and he does. Valtteri clearly back out again for another race run. Sorry. Sergio Perez continues on. But currently on track, and looks like they're all, on race runs, is Sainz, Perez, Stroll, Bottas, Hamilton, Sargent, Ricciardo, and Ocon. So plenty of cars on track, but nobody deciding to go for a proper quick lap time. So yeah, if you have any thoughts you want to post in the chat, then make sure to do so, because we've got nothing really going on at the moment. Let me just see if there's anything on Twitter that I can bring you guys in terms of news. And no, don't think I can see anything at the moment. Back now at the Ferrari of Sainz, who is breaking hard now for turn one. And yeah, the reason that time from Sainz of a 129.9 on that compound is very impressive, not only because it's 0.2 of a second away from last year's pole at this track, but if you look at the last couple years, Leclerc has been clearly quicker than Sainz around this track. So if he can do a 129.9 on that compound, then Leclerc maybe could do a 29.7, which would be equaling the pole position of last year. And we know that, even though that was a quick time from Sainz earlier, there still would have been a bit more power in the car that could have been used, and also probably a bit of fuel left over. So yeah, definitely impressive from Ferrari. Keen to see what Red Bull will do eventually. Carlos Sainz, Ferrari that's handling well on these longer runs, is continuing pound around the track. Talking of the long runs, as I said yesterday, when we start the stream tomorrow, and we're going to do like a half an hour build up to what do you call it, to the afternoon session, I am going to try and display some long run pace from testing so far if I can find that data and work out average lap times and stuff like that. What I'm going to do tonight is try and get all that ready if I can. I will at least though list the best lap times so far in testing, so we can get an understanding of um who's done the best time so far and what compound, and how people in general so far are looking with their lower fueled pace. But if I can find the data from the long runs and convert that into some useful information for you guys, then I will make sure to have that ready for you guys tomorrow, because we are probably going to find out a bit more on the race runs if we can get that data as to how quick certain teams are. Ban Ocon. Looking at on board. Continue on. And by the way, the long run pace that we will be, if I can find that data, the long run pace we'll be looking at is from the teams that are lapping in the mid one, say, mid, around 134, 135 lap time, something like that. That should be pretty accurate race pace to what they'll be doing, in the Bahrain Grand Prix next weekend. So yeah, I'll try, like I said, and get that data if I can. Fun to go through. Looking at Lewis Hamilton, who is continuing a race run of his. Logan Sargent is on an outlap, I can see. Lewis Hamilton just coming down the pit straight. Quite a bumpy pit straight, I have to say, this year. Quite bumpy for the McLaren I saw earlier, which bouncing quite a bit. Then continuing on. So, see what in the chat. Laurie Rostogi says people are, and by the way, hello to Prank in the chat. Back to F1 friends. Sound is low, Chazza. Shouldn't be low. There shouldn't be any problem with the sound. You may want to check on your end if there's anything not quite turned up all the way, but yeah, it's sounds fine for me from what I've heard listening back. Yeah, Laurie Rostogi saying on the chat, people are writing Perez off too early in my opinion. He's not going to win the championship, but I think he can still keep his drive for next year if he can find his 2022. Yeah, if he gets back into that form of 2022, then unless Ricardo does something really special this year, then why not just continue? There's no point breaking up something that works if, of course, it is working. We'll have to see whether Perez, though, is. Get back to that level. Laurie Rostogi asking, what's your pecking order? Mine is Red Bull, Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes, Aston Martin, Racing Bull, Alpine, Williams, Stake, and then Haas. If I was to go for a pecking order now, again, most of it I'm just guessing. So please don't take this, too seriously. But I would say, yeah, Red Bull, quickest, Ferrari second, McLaren third, Mercedes fourth, Racing Bulls fifth, Aston Martin sixth, um, Alpine seventh, and then probably I'm going to say Sauber eighth, Williams ninth, and Haas in 10th as Esteban Ocon improves his lap time but stays in 14th place. Yeah, that's what I would go for so far. But again, I'm guessing when it comes to most of that pecking order. Ocon only went just over half a tenth quicker with that lap, so it wasn't exactly a stunner in an Alpine car that definitely is not a stunner. Rook saying, I agree the mic is a tad low. Well, yeah, as I was saying, there shouldn't be anything different from from previous, unless maybe I'm just a bit too far away from the microphone. I mean, that is it. But I mean, I'll listen back later and we'll see if if I can hear the same things here. But all the settings are the same, so it shouldn't be anything wrong with it. Just looking at Twitter to see any news. No, can't see anything. Brooks saying it's lower than last year. Yesterday was a tad quieter than normal too. Right. Well, like I said, after the stream, I'll have a listen back, and then if it's a tad low, then I'll just try and up it slightly if I can. But it, like I said, it shouldn't be lower, unless it's just me not talking as loud or something like that. Like I said, it shouldn't be lower because the settings are exactly the same, and they've been the same really for the last year and a half. So yeah. As Kevin Magnussen is now starting a lap on the C3 compound of tyre. Yeah, Haas have not pushed at all in testing so far. I'm not expecting this necessarily a push lap from the Haas. Maybe a quicker lap, considering 2.3 seconds to the next car. Another slow run. It's going to be from the Haas car. McLaren from race. Kaza, did you hear, or did I hear Silverstone has a new 10-year contract? Yes, it does. A new 10-year deal until, is it 2035? Which is great news, because even if they do decide at some point to do a London Grand Prix, which I'm sure will be done at some point in the future, given what Liberty Media's plans for Formula One are, at least the British Grand Prix at Silverstone will still be on the calendar for a decade, which is something. Also, I think was it a few weeks ago, there was the announcement that Suzuka is going to be remaining on the calendar for another few years. That's a win. Just need Bar to get on a bit of a longer contract. Also, obviously, Monza as well. Slow lap on that occasion. Sergio Perez is going to come back out on track pretty soon. doing some work around the rear of the car quickly before probably sending him out in a few minutes' time. Lando Norris in the McLaren garage talking to his engineer, I think, or one of his engineers, talking about the handling. Quick look there at the telemetry. Well, Aston Martin of Stroll, who is on the C1 compound by the looks of it. I think it's the compound. As what, a week from now we'll be doing, I think, what, practice 2, I think. So yeah, not long until the season is underway. It'll be a pretty hot start to the season in terms of the amount of races we've got. Obviously in March we've got 3 races. We've got another couple in April, and in May we've got 3. So yeah, by the time we get to the end of May, we would have already had what, 8 races, I think. What, third of the season. Cannot wait to finally get underway pretty soon. Stroll continuing on with his run on the C1. He's got the Sauber of Valtteri Bottas not too far behind. Continuing on. Will F1 says Aston and Mercedes are on the same pace right now, in my opinion. It's too early to tell with those two, especially because they've just, those two teams have not shown anything. And F1 Racing, the good old, circuits don't get forgotten about in Liberty's quest to chase the dollars. I can stomach quirky street circuits more now. We you know, those Grand Prix, you know, Monaco, Silverstone, Imola, Monza, Spa, Suzuka, you know, these places we have to keep. Lagos, we've got to keep tracks on the calendar, not only because it's a big part of Formula One's history, but these are some of the best racetracks in the world. And I've been thinking about this in the last couple of months in regards to the, you know, addition of street circuit. If you get rid of some of those classic racetracks, Formula One loses some of its value, because how can you, let's say, you know, eventually at some point, it's saying 5 years' time, it won't happen. But let's say in 5 years' time, we're racing on street circuits every single weekend, and, you know, it's mostly just new street circuits, not like proper old classic, you know, places like that. And we're not racing at tracks like Silverstone, Spa, Monza, Suzuka, Imola, you know, brilliant racetracks. Then how can Formula One call themselves the most prestigious, best racing series in the world if you're not racing at the best tracks? That's, you know, in terms of the best racetracks in the world, the most famous racetracks in the world being on the calendar, that is what adds to Formula One's value in terms of it being the most prestigious and the best in quality in the world. So, for that reason, it's got to stay around. Yeah, we'll hope that it does. Will F1, how much closer do you think Piastri will be compared to Norris this season? Closer. I mean, it wasn't, the gap on average between Norris and Piastri last year wasn't that big, to be honest. But it'll be a closer fight, and it will be a back and forth at times. But I think Lando Norris still will come out on top because I think he still has the edge when it comes to obviously managing the tyres in the race. And I think overall, Lando has consistently a bit of a faster pace in qualifying. Piastri, incredibly quick in qualifying, of course. But I think Lando is a bit more consistent with it for the moment. But it will be closer. Piastri will beat Norris more times this season than he did last year. But I still think Lando will end up as the winner in that fight. For the first Grand Prix in Bahrain, I think, yeah, Lando probably, because he's always been very quick here, Lando. In Bahrain, I think Lando will be the quicker driver. In Saudi Arabia, though, it should be Piastri, who has always been stunningly quick at the Jeddah circuit. Logan Sargent is race front. Carlos Sainz currently on an outlap. Sainz is showing a replay, actually, they are, of him having a pretty big lockup on the entry to the pit lane. Practice pit stop to put on a set of hard tyres, C2 tyres, for Carlos. Rook in the chat saying real circuits are there all year round for young drivers to use and improve in the lower classes. Street circuits are not, so are detrimental to the sport in the long term. Willafon says Piastri will win a race before Norris. Just watch it happen. Maybe. It depends, obviously, doesn't it, on when the chance presents itself, who takes advantage. Because I mean, Lando this season, Lando may 75-80% of the time be quicker than Piastri, but as we saw with Ricciardo in 2021, just need to be quick enough on that right weekend where the chance presents itself and you get a race win. I'm not saying Norris is going to beat Piastri as easily as Norris did Ricciardo, but you see what I mean. You don't have to be going to get a race win, just a race win in a season. You don't have to be on it every weekend and be ahead of your teammate every weekend necessarily. You don't have to be necessarily aiming for that every weekend to be possibly winning a race. It's about executing at the right time when the chance presents itself, which ultimately is what makes the great drivers the great drivers. Because especially when some of these great drivers previous years are in worse cars, when the chance presents itself for those drivers in worse cars to be on the podium or win a race, they took that chance. Some others, like your Nico Hulkenbergs in the past, have not. That's what separates, again, the great from the good. Hamilton at the hairpin. Locking his inside front and going very wide. Which I think Russell did late yesterday, if I remember correctly. Now looking at the Racing Bull car of Daniel Ricciardo. DRS Open. Is this going to be a quick lap from Ricciardo? Let's hope so. It says replay, but I don't think this is a replay. No, it's not. Ricciardo in turn 4. Hits the apex so nicely. Rear end. Very, very nice. And he does do a personal best first sector. If Ricciardo, I mean, I don't know how quick the first sector was, but if he can go second with this lap, this would be very impressive. Of course, Norris did his best time quite a bit earlier. would still be impressive nonetheless from Ricardo. But as I've said yesterday, Ricardo never finished on the podium. Bahrain. Ricardo, yeah, this is going to be the best lap time. Ricardo, it's going to be quite a bit quicker than what he's done before. This will probably put Ricardo into 6th place, maybe 5th at best. Come through the final corner, and again, that Racing Bull car really hooked up to the track, and handling wise looks very good. Got a great final sector though, and he only goes up to 9th place. Does Ricardo. He is now 2.4 seconds off the pace. So let's just update that quick. And he's only 200ths behind his fellow Aussie in Oscar Piastri. Do the other gaps quickly. Sargent and Alonso. Yeah, I like what I see with the Racing Bull car. It's I think that car won't necessarily be at its strongest around a circuit like this. If you remember last year, the car was a bit draggy. I'm not sure if it will be this year, but I think that car, from what I've seen of it, I fancy it will be pretty good around the higher aero circuits of, Monaco, Barcelona, places like that. So they can have a good weekend next weekend with that car and score a decent amount of points. Then it's going to set them up well for possibly a good season. And remember, guys, with the Racing Bull team, let's say they do end up at the start of this season, say the 4th best team. They have, for the first half of this year, some of the most wind tunnel development time out of any team. Of course, they finished 8th in the championship last season, so only Sauber and Haas have more time in the wind tunnel to develop in the first half of this year. So if they can start the season well and really develop well in the wind tunnel, they could have a seriously good season. So watch out for them this year. They are without a doubt the dark horse of 2024. As Esteban Ocon does a personal best first sector on the C3 compound. Obviously, Gasly did the afternoon session yesterday, and it's now Esteban's turn. And Ocon, I feel, has to start this season well compared to Gasly, because in the second half of last season, Gasly was pretty regularly beating him. Ocon does a decent middle sector compared to certain other cars, but nothing special, I would say. The Alpine, I've got to say, handling-wise, definitely does not look as stable as the Racing Bull car. He comes to the line, and Ocon goes up to P10 in the Alpine. So Alpine into the top 10 now. And once again, that Alpine livery really is not good. This looks very, to me, just very dull and boring. Sergio Perez is outside of his car waiting for the mechanics to get it fully ready. Get these gaps done quickly. He quickly go to the F1 website. Get the gaps up on there. if the gaps will show, and they do eventually. So Alonso 3.1 seconds down, but of course Alonso not in the car for this afternoon session. Fernando, though, I think surely will be in the car for the afternoon session tomorrow, because he's only done the morning session so far for today and yesterday. Now got Gasly, 14th place. So, yeah, there you go. As we've got about, what, an hour or so left here of day 2. Valtteri Bottas we're looking at in through the end of the middle sector. Let's say pushing, really. Daniel Ricciardo just comes back into the pit lane for the Racing Bull team. The Sauber looks decent for a midfield runner in terms of the level of downforce, but nothing special. They look about as good handling-wise as they were last year. Difference, and there we can't really expect a major difference. Sauber really just waiting for 2026, I think. They're not really going to do much of anything this year or next year. Logan Sargent bumping over the entry curb. Turn 8 a bit too hard. Of course, Logan, this corner he's going through now, turn 9 and 10, had a massive spin. Thankfully, he's had a better day today. But just to update you, in terms of laps completed, Logan Sargent has done 111 laps. Williams overall have done, 111 laps because Albon has not been in the car at all today. Lewis Hamilton done 114. Perez has done 108. Ferrari have done 105 laps. McLaren have not actually done that many laps so far today. They've only done 72 laps, so they'll be wanting to get back out there for another 20 laps at least, I would say. Sauber have done how many laps? About 107 laps, I think. Aston Martin today have done 108 laps. Racing Bull team done about 111. So, except for McLaren, maybe you could say Alpine to an extent. Alpine have only done 92 laps, but McLaren definitely have not done as many laps today as really they would have preferred. A live shot of Valtteri Bottas overtaking someone. Yeah, he was just overtaking the Aston Martin there of Lance Stroll. Yeah, hoping we can get, say, 2 to 3 more quick runs before the end of the session. Remember, though, hour and 10 minutes to go, but we believe the final 10 minutes is going to be used to some checks by the FIA, the red flag and virtual safety car procedures. So, really, we've only got about an hour left. As the replay of Bottas earlier trying to pass Stroll and getting quite a bit of oversteer, trying to do on the exit at turn 4. By the replay of how he was held up behind the Aston Martin. Look at the Ferrari of Carlos Sainz continuing his race run. Sergio Perez is now on track. We'll see what tyres he's on in a moment. But before we go any further, I'm just going to quickly have a drink, guys, and then I'll be back with you guys in a few seconds. As yeah, Carlos Sainz is just continuing his run on the C2 compound of tyre. And yeah, I'll let you know what tyre Sergio Perez is on once I know, as Perez, I think, is just coming up to turn 13. Going through turn 13 now. I think it's Sergio Perez. I'd be wrong. Back through the visor of sights on the TV broadcast. Be good at night. See drivers' eyes and what they're looking at and how sharp their eyes are. And yes, Sergio Perez is now on the pit straight, so we'll see what he's up to in a moment. I lost sights this long run. And good reliability, I have to say, for Ferrari. Because remember last year, they had some reliability issues in testing. And then obviously some issues in the first Grand Prix in Bahrain and had to take a 10th-place penalty at the second race because of they'd already used so many ICEs. Sergio Perez, well, just on not really a cool-down lap because he's only just come out of the pits, but maybe was trying to do a lap Perez and may have made a mistake or come across traffic. Does have some high-vis paint on the car, so maybe that's what the out there doing some tests, aero tests for the team. Whereas his best time today, 1:31.4, only a tenth of a second slower than Max went yesterday. Same compound. Perez letting the Sauber through there. The Aston Martin now, as well as Lance Stroll. And obviously Red Bull just trying to see with that high-vis paint where the air is flowing. Right. Let me go to Twitter and see if there's any current news. No, can't see anything. But I will read something out from earlier, and it's a quote from Charles Leclerc when he was asked about the Ferrari car. And yeah, let me just read out this quote from Leclerc, as earlier he was interviewed by Will Buxton of F1. He said, quote, in terms of drivability, the car is a lot better compared to last year. Last year, after the test, it was very difficult to push in a direction because we didn't know what the car was doing. This year, the car is not like this, which is a better starting point. However, my initial feeling is that unfortunately, Red Bull seems to be quite a bit ahead. And yesterday, they'd done impressive lap times, but this is just my own feeling. Not looking at datas because datas don't mean much for now. So at least that is good for Ferrari. That, you know, they've got a better starting point, as Leclerc said, than what they had last year, because last year's car was quite unpredictable. Lewis Hamilton coming out back out on track soon. Here's a replay of Sergio Perez wiggling the car about on the exit of turn 1. Yeah, we're just, watching over these race runs, unfortunately. No real quick runs for the moment. And I think, obviously, too late now. I think probably from next year on, because we've, got experience now of watching pre-season testing so often, I think probably from next year on, I'm probably just going to do a watch along for the final day of testing. Not because I, don't enjoy doing the watch alongs for, the days previous to the final day, but really the only day where you get proper, low fuel running um consistently is the final day. So yeah, at least I'll know that for next year. But of course I will cover the rest of this final hour, even if we don't get any more improvements. But it looks as though we are about to get an improvement, because Sergio Perez has done a personal best first sector. See what his middle sector time is in a moment. Valtteri Bottas. Perez, yeah, personal best middle sector. And this looks like, from Perez, this might put him up to second. And this might be Red Bull's best time of testing so far. Comes into the final corner. Car looks very good through the final corner. Lots of downforce. And doesn't really go that much faster. He does go faster, but only by a couple tenths. I thought he would have gone a bit quicker in that final sector there. So yeah, that is not great. And even though it is Red Bull's best time of testing so far, is still keeping Perez in third place. As we now look at Logan Sargent, just getting out of the way of a Ferrari. Sargent looks like he's going back into the pits, and he is. Sainz continues down the pit straight. We've only got what? Sainz, Perez, Stroll, Bottas, and Magnussen on the track right now. Carlos Sainz. Pretty long run here on the hard tyre. This C2 compound, though, is going to be the medium compound for the Bahrain Grand Prix. So, and that medium compound will probably get the most use in the race on the Saturday, next Saturday. So it is crucial that Ferrari get a good understanding of their car's performance on that tyre in regards to next weekend and also just the season in general. As Lewis Hamilton now on an outlap. What tyres he's on in a moment. We've got now 1 hour to go officially in or on day 2 of testing. Maybe Mercedes will go for a bit of a quicker lap than what they've done so far today. Mercedes have probably sandbagged the most, I would say, in testing so far. So, yeah, keen they've got. Maybe they're quietly confident about what they've got. We'll have to find out at some point. as Esteban Ocon on an outlap now as well. Sergio Perez as well. Carlos Sainz, we're just watching him continue on this beautiful red Ferrari livery. Look through there at the Mercedes garage. Lewis Hamilton is just coming around to the final couple corners of his outlap. And Hamilton on the C3 compound. And yeah, let's hope this is going to be a quicker time for what he's done so far, because he's got 1 second to make up to the McLaren of Lando Norris. And at some point, of course, Mercedes have got to do a bit of a quicker lap to try and see where they're at with their low fuel pace. As Hamilton opens the DRS, already going through turn 1 now. So let's see if this is going to be a quicker run. Definitely looks visibly like it. Hamilton throws the car through turn 4. And the first sector time, only 0.2 off Carlos Sainz. Pretty good for the first sector, I've got to say. Through turn 8 now. And car definitely handling a lot better than it was a year ago. Remember on day 2 last year where the car was undrivable? Definitely not anywhere near as bad as it was then. This car looks a lot more like a proper car that's connected front to rear compared to 2023 Mercedes. That's Hamilton now coming up to the middle sector point. And 0.9 off now, which is, yeah, quite a bit. But compared to Lando Norris and the time he did, this is looking pretty good for Lewis Hamilton. And he might go up to second place with this lap, as Esteban Ocon is on an improved lap as well. Here comes Lewis Hamilton to the line. And he does go second, goes a couple tenths of a second quicker than Lando Norris, and is 1.1 seconds now behind Carlos Sainz. I think that is not that far away from Mercedes running at their quickest in terms of, you know, the lowest fuel and the highest power. I think that was quite a fast run given the tyre they're on. So, Esteban Ocon has just gone up to 7th place. So, let me just quickly update the gaps. Lewis Hamilton 1.145 of a second off the pace now. Get the gaps done quickly. And remember, with Carlos Sainz on a 129.9, Lewis Hamilton on a 131.0, I think it is, about 5 to 6 tenths of a second advantage with the C4 tyre compared to the C3. So Mercedes, in terms of how they are compared to Ferrari, not great at all, but I don't think Mercedes still are pushing quite as hard as what Ferrari were a couple hours ago. So do remember that if you're a Mercedes fan. Let me just do these gaps quickly. Lance Stroll now down in 6th place with Esteban Ocon just behind. Good lap time from Ocon. See him doing some good laps, as now Daniel Ricciardo is on an outlap on the medium tyre. So we'll see if he's going to go for a quicker run. Do a couple Bottas. Piastri. Ricardo, of course. So there you go. All the gaps there corrected. Yeah, Ricardo, DRS open, down to turn one. Let's see what extra pace Ricardo has. The best time the Racing Bull has done so far in testing was, or I think it actually is the current, yeah, it is. The current lap time they have, a 1:32.4. That is the best time they've done so far. If Ricardo could go up to sixth place, as he does a personal best first sector, yeah, if he could go sixth with this lap, that would be very, very impressive. Lewis Hamilton back out on track on an out lap. This Racing Bull car, once again, looking very comfortable to drive. DRS wide open. Turn 11. It looks a very nice midfield car, this Racing Bull. Not quite sure yet it's a front runner, but it definitely is a good car. And that's a good middle sector for Ricardo. And yeah, as it stands, I think he will go up to sixth place. Maybe even up to fifth if his final sector is really good. Very good final corner in terms of handling. And Ricardo to the line. And yes, he goes sixth. Goes a couple hundredths of a second quicker than Lance Stroll. There you go. They have proven yet again, Racing Bulls, that their car, not just with handling, but speed, it's a good car. And they are going to be cooking this season. No doubt about that. So, get some of these gaps correct. Just showing an onboard replay, I think, of Lewis Hamilton's lap from a couple minutes ago. Prex says Racing Bull beats Alpine this year. Yeah, I'm confident of that at the moment. And I think for the midfield, we're probably looking at maybe Aston Martin versus Racing Bulls. In terms of the fight for the top of the midfield. Again, I don't think we've got the evidence yet to suggest that Racing Bulls are at front pack of cars. Yeah, the car looks good. There is no doubt about that. And it's not really a surprise given how they ended last year. They ended last year as one of the most informed teams. Yeah, the handling of that Mercedes on that quick lap was pretty good. And it definitely, like I said, looks like a step up on last year's car, which is good to see. Maybe you could say after that lap that Mercedes have got definitely a faster car than McLaren, but still, we need to wait to see what McLaren do in response. Replay of Hamilton and one. Getting a lot of oversteer on the exit from, I think, another lap he attempted. Really spinning the car. As we've got Carlos Sainz now on an out lap as Lewis Hamilton is coming back into the pit lane. Your practice pit stop. Let's see. It is. Puts on another set of medium tyres. And now he's going to be wheeled back into the garage, I think. Yep, he will. The Ferrari of Carlos Sainz. Yeah, back out on track. I think just continue race run. Now on set C1 tyres, which will be the hard compound tyre for the Bahrain Grand Prix. Just over a week from now. Got the Aston Martin not too far behind him. McLaren from Race saying in the chat, looking at that, I don't reckon Merc is sandbagging. Good looking car though. Yeah, very nice looking car. But still think they've got a bit more to show Mercedes. That's my feeling anyway. Right. Continuing on. Red Bull have just about done the most laps today of any team. That is true. And yeah, they have. Sergio Perez for Red Bull has done a 121 laps. Two more than Lewis Hamilton. McLaren, by the way, still in the pits. And let me just have a scroll on Twitter to see if they've got an issue with their car or something. Because no reason staying in the pits right now. Can't see. Then let me just look. Chris Medland is saying. Can't see anything. So yeah, not quite sure what is going on at the Backer team. Ferrari now on. How many laps? Okay. 120 now. Or yeah, 120 laps now, Ferrari. So they are very close, having the most laps of the day. Again, like I said a few minutes ago, very good considering their poor reliability of a year ago. Got only what Sainz, Ricciardo, Stroll, and Bottas track. Hamilton and Perez back in the pit lane. Ocon back in the pit lane. Norris obviously still in the pit lane. Sargent still in the pit lane. I lost just a race run doing a 1:35.7 on that occasion. And considering Perez has just pitted, I think Ferrari will overtake Red Bull in a moment for the most laps of day two. The replay here of a practice pit stop where they put on the one compound for Carlos. From the box. Daniel Ricciardo now on track on a set of C4 tyres. DRS open up to turn 4. Here we go, guys. Let's see what Danny Rick has got. Are looking very lively on these C4 tyres. And first sector is a personal best. Third of a second down on Carlos Sainz. Not really a surprise. The Ferrari a lot quicker power sections. And if Ricciardo, I mean, he's done a 32.0 on the C3. If Daniel can go, you know, in between Perez and Leclerc and do, say, a 1:31.4, then I think that would be a very good time. That car. Let's see what he does for the middle sector. Ricciardo. And only a second down. So, yeah, looks as though if he has a good final sector, he probably is going to do a 1:31.4, something like that, maybe even a 31.3. As through the final corner he comes. Very good downforce again. And Ricciardo to the line. He goes fifth, and it is a 1:31.4. And with every quick lap they do, it's just further evidence that they do have the midfield, possibly even amongst some of the front runners, a very quick car. Looking good at the Racing Bull team. Two drivers, Ricciardo and Sonoda. Let me just quickly go to the F1 website to get the gaps behind Ricciardo correct. Ed Kravitz in the pit lane. Looks like McLaren are about to, in a moment, let Lando Norris back out on track. So, back. Claire now down to, hold on, it's actually Ricciardo up to fifth. Leclerc in sixth place now. 1.8 seconds of his teammates' pace. Of course, though, Leclerc ran in the morning session as Lando Norris is getting his helmet on just a second. So, yeah, Lando will be back out on track probably in the next 5 minutes. Let's hope McLaren will go for a shortish run along with maybe well. Yeah, with the Racing Bull team. Sorry. Let me just clear my throat. With the Racing Bull team, I'm pretty confident that Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, McLaren probably are ahead of them. But in terms of the fight for fifth fastest, I'd say Racing Bulls have, probably got that fight won in it, unless Aston Martin show us something quite different in this final 40 minutes of day two and obviously tomorrow. So, yeah, looking very good for the Racing Bulls team. Esteban Ocon we're now looking at on board. He's on an outlap. We've also got Kevin Magnussen on an outlap as well. Ocon coming through now to turn 13. And Ocon, what, 10th and a half, just over a 10th and a half behind Stroll. And Ocon, he is going to do a quick run. I think he'll be wanting to try and get in between Leclerc and Stroll, maybe even ahead of Leclerc with this lap, which would represent some good speed, I think, in the Alpine. DRS is open down to turn one. Let's see what this Alpine got. Ocon. Turn 1, 2, and 3. DRS open again. Fine through turn 4, no issues. And personal best first sector. So, yep, this is going to be a proper quick run for Ocon. The first sector, though, I mean, it's important, but it's not really that telling as to how quick the lap is going to be until really you get to the middle sector time beam. Ocon wise, all good through turn 9 and 10. Out to turn 11. And couldn't really see if it looked good or not from that camera angle going. Middle sector. Personal best. And yeah, looking good. And might be able to sneak ahead of Charles Leclerc here. Going to be close between him and Leclerc. Ocon through the final corner really throws the car in and was rewarded for it. Now comes to the line. And bad final sector, and he stays in 8th place. Did not do a personal best final sector either. Did Ocon. So more time in the bag there for Alpine. Rook asking, are these the compound used for the actual race chassis, and are the softs only good for one flying lap here? The tyre compounds for the Bahrain Grand Prix will be the C3, C2, and C1. So the C4 tyres, they don't matter in terms of Bahrain Grand Prix, but they still matter when it comes to general. Because, of course, we will see the C4 tyres plenty during the year. But for the C3 compound for the Bahrain Grand Prix next week, I mean, you're not really going to get that great a second run on that tyre qualifying. I mean, you could do 2 runs on the tyre, but again, second run I don't think is going to get you necessarily a much better lap time. So yeah. And then with the race, the C3 tyre, which here is the medium, but in Bahrain next week will be the soft tyre. I can see it being used in the race for at least 1 stint, maybe 2 stints, depending on how aggressive certain teams need to be. But yeah, it won't be the worst tyre in the world. But for the Bahrain Grand Prix, the strategy definitely will be a 2-stopper, which is the usual here in Bahrain, because it's so easy to overtake, so there's no point doing a 1-stopper because it doesn't really benefit you at this track. And plus the advantage you have on fresh tyres is so big here. Sergio Perez is on an outlap, so is Lando Norris. And Perez is warming his tyres up and looks as though he is about to start, Perez, a flying lap. Norris starting what appears to be a long run in the final half an hour of day 2. Hopefully they'll cut to Perez in a moment. See how quick Perez can go. Just see Perez in the background. Yeah, we'll see what Perez is up to in a second, I guess. Only cars on track right now. The Ferrari of Sainz, the McLaren of Norris, the Red Bull of Perez, and the Haas of Magnus. Here is Perez on board through turn 8. Car handling well. And yes, personal best first sector. No idea how quick, though, it is. Through turn 10. Missed the apex slightly, but wouldn't have cost him that much. Probably only half a tenth at most. Perez through turn 11. Car looks fine. Middle sector. He is 4.5 tenths off Carlos Sainz. This is a good lap. Because remember, Sainz on the C4 tyre with his best lap earlier. So this is a much more accurate showing of where Red Bull are at with their car. Sergio Perez exits the final corner to the line. And he goes 3/4 of a second off in second place, 130.6. So we'll update that quickly. But, given that Carlos Sainz is on a tyre half a second quicker, and that is also Perez in the Red Bull, not Max, I think that's a clear example there that Red Bull still have the better car, because we know Max can go probably at minimum 2 to 3 tenths of a second better than Perez. So yeah, the Red Bull is definitely quicker than the Ferrari at the moment. Yeah, Perez up to second place as Alpine, or not the Alpine, the Racing Bull of Ricciardo on another set of C4 tyres by the looks of it. See what he does. Second, let me update gap. Perez. So and Norris, there you go. Yeah, Ricciardo currently in fifth place, only 3.5 tenths behind the Mercedes of Hamilton. Can he do any better? Not so far. Got a personal best first sector, but only probably a tenth away from his personal best. So he can still improve on this lap. Ricciardo, good thing there through turn 10. Looks like Williams are possibly going to come out on track again. Been in the pits for quite a while, at least the last hour from what I can remember. That's Ricciardo, good middle sector, but I don't think this is going to put him any higher than where he's at now. Probably only go a tenth quicker, which will keep him probably in fifth place. But we'll see what the final sector is like. Ricciardo out the final corner to the line. And he does improve by half a tenth exactly, but stays in fifth place. Good to see Racing Bulls pushing hard. And just want to say quickly before we go any further is Perez back in pits, doing some final work on the car. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe for more content like this. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there. Remember, tomorrow I will be live at 11:30 a.m. UK time. That's half an hour before the afternoon session begins, to cover some of what happened in the morning, also get through some data from testing so far, and then cover the full 4-hour afternoon session on the final day of pre-season testing. So make sure to come along to that. And for everyone watching right now, if you haven't already, smash that like button. We're on 28 likes. Let's try and get up to 35 likes if we can, at least by the end of the stream. That'd be great if we could do that. As we're just looking at Lando, who last few laps has been doing a race run. As Lance Stroll is on an out lap. Let's hope he's on a slower fuel. As we're half an hour away from the end, but probably more likely 20 minutes away from the end, as Daniel Ricciardo now pits. And we'll see if that's the final time he goes for a quick run. But yeah, positive, very positive for the Racing Bulls team. I've said before. Norris is trying to get some laps in. Heavier fuel, given the time he missed on track. Stroll still on lap somewhere out there. So the guys are saying in the chat, as Lance Stroll is now coming actually down the pit straight. Let's see if this is going to be a quick run from Stroll. The thing is, though, with Stroll, is of course because he's not the quickest driver over a single lap and just in general. If this is a quick lap, it is obviously hard to tell how quick the Aston Martin legitimately got a quick run. Only 2.5 seconds off the pace in the first sector. Don't have to worry about that, as Esteban Ocon now on an outlap for Alpine. See if he can get ahead of this man on screen, the Canadian Lance Stroll. TV broadcast screen, I mean, not my screen. We've got the Racing Bull of Ricardo. Looking on board at the Aston Martin. The Aston Martin looks fine, but probably not as good from what I've seen so far of the Racing Bull car. So, yeah, not really that positive at the moment when it comes to Aston Martin. But again, as I said a moment ago, with Stroll in the car, it's hard to know what the actual potential is because Stroll regularly is quite far off it. So when Alonso's in the car for tomorrow's afternoon session, we should know quite a bit more. Just going to quickly have a drink, guys. Back to you guys in a few seconds. As Ocon just coming up to the final corner. Looks to me like this is probably going to be a heavier fueled run because he's not like backing off tyres. Actually, no. Coming back into the pit lane. Someone there was just released from the pit lane. Looked like one of the front runners. Don't know which one. And it was Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes as Ocon does a practice pit stop and goes on to another set of medium tyres. In a moment, what compound Hamilton is on and what Mercedes are going to be doing. Mike Molina says, so not much happened on day 2. Not a lot. We found out slightly more about how the field is shaping up, but it's not really that dramatically different from what we saw on day 1. So, yeah, not the most eventful day. But again, make sure to come around for tomorrow because day 3, the final day of testing, is always exciting because you get them, the teams pushing a lot harder. So we'll find out a lot more tomorrow. And I think by the time we finish up this time tomorrow, I think we'll have mostly a good idea of how the order is going to be to start the season. Yeah, Ocon back out on track on an outlap. Ricardo as well on an outlap. Morris watching on the broadcast. Continuing on his long run on the E3 tyre. With it. Quick look. Ocon back into the pit lane again. Look at Twitter. If there's any news. And can't see then Lance Stroll back in the pits. Valtteri Bottas on an outlap. We've not seen a quick run from him, really. And Lewis Hamilton, yep, on a new lap. Not done a personal best first sector. I didn't quite see what the gap was in him and Sainz, but I don't think it was that far off his personal best first sector. As the Mercedes car sparking away, so they've lowered the car. DRS open down to turn 11. So yeah, this is a push lap from Hamilton. How much quicker can he go? Really, you'd have to say he needs to be going, probably 3 to 4 tenths of a second quicker. And his middle sector, not that great. Almost a second off Carlos Sainz. Yeah, not a great middle sector there for Lewis Hamilton. As a bit of a scruffy final corner. And Hamilton to the line. Doesn't actually improve. And yeah, there was a bit of a scruffy lap. Hamilton. It definitely seems, from what I've seen so far, that Mercedes are not on the level of Red Bull and Ferrari. At least when it comes to pace over a single lap. So third at best for Mercedes. Start the year, probably. Still need to see where McLaren are. They'll be a threat. Are sparking quite heavily on that lap, running it quite low. But what is it with was it Mike Molina saying in the chat? Checo was supposed to do day 3. Are they switching? Yeah, actually forgot to mention that. Red Bull have switched their plan around. So Perez has and is doing all of today. Obviously, there's only 20 minutes left of day 2. And then tomorrow, I think Perez is doing the morning and Max is doing the afternoon. Valtteri Bottas back out there on the one compound doing another race run by the looks of it. Stroll and Ocon on an outlap. Sergio Perez as well. Yeah, should have mentioned that earlier. Sorry about that. What I was going to say, though, was Mercedes, their aim really at minimum for the start of this season needs to be, just being closer to Red Bull than they were this time last year. In qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix in 2023, they were 6.5 tenths away from pole, which is, doesn't sound that big of a gap, but when you factor in the track layout, which, half of it is just flat out, that is quite a bit of time to be losing around a track like this. So if they can get closer, then that would be great if they could. And obviously they were only 6th and 7th on the grid for last year's Bahrain Grand Prix. Sergio Perez, DRS open, and is on another flying lap. And if Perez can go another 0.2 of a second quicker, then that would definitely show that Red Bull have definitely got a better car than Ferrari, given the tyre difference. And plus, Red Bull don't have their best driver in the car. Perez did have a bit of a wiggle on the exit of turn 1. But the first sector is only a tenth off Carlos Sainz, so still good. This Red Bull car looks very hooked up to the track. Turn 8, very, very good grip, especially on the exit through turn 9 and 10. Hits the apex a lot more than he did before. Turn 11 now. This is the apex. Uses of the wide a line as he can on the exit. Not a great middle sector, half a second exactly behind Sainz after the first two sectors, but that's still not that bad. If he has a personal best final sector, this should be an improvement. Final corner is very good. Comes to the line, Sergio Perez, and improves by only 0.005 of a second. So not a great lap there from Perez. And I think could have done better with that lap. Esteban Ocon is repeatedly back into pits yet again. Yeah, they're just giving their pit crew practice for pit stops. But we've got quite a lot of cars on track. Sainz, Perez, Norris, Ricciardo, Stroll, Ocon, Bottas, Magnussen. Limo of the wheel gun action. Martin of Lance Stroll, who I think is on a long run. Martin being quite conservative running so far. But I'm sure tomorrow with Alonso in the car for the afternoon, I think, after the afternoon, makes sense if he was. We should then start to see a lot more of what their genuine pace is. Stroll, yeah, clearly a longer run here. As Carlos Sainz comes back into the pit lane. Minutes, guys, until we're done for the day. Again, a reminder, even though we are only 8 minutes away from what 7 p.m. local time and 4 p.m. here in the UK, a bit of extra time has been added on by the FIA, I believe, to do some procedural practice in terms of testing out the red flag system and the virtual safety car system, all of that. So we will see if they are going to do that. And if they do, in 7 minutes' time, then I will come to an stream a bit earlier. Sergio Perez back out on an outlap, so maybe Perez will go for another attempt to try and improve a bit more than what he did do, as Lewis Hamilton now back out on track on an outlap. Hamilton on a set of mediums. The three. Hamilton just coming up to turn 4. On the looks of it, it's going to be a quick run that he's going to do eventually. He's not exactly pushing that hard on the out lap. He's doing what you typically do for a cool down lap or a out lap, I guess you would say as well. Hamilton will be back in the car, of course, tomorrow. Mercedes are going to split day 3. Some work going on in the Ferrari garage to Carlos Sainz's car. And quite possibly Carlos won't be coming out again, as Sergio Perez comes back into the pits. Looks like they're doing some practice pit stops at Red Bull. Going on to other set mediums, and the virtual safety car has now been deployed. So it looks like they're testing those systems a bit early. the Hamilton comes back into the pits, and yeah, they're just out on so testing the safety car system. And it's also to test that, on the driver dash that that all the systems are all working and it's all synced up correctly. Pass of Evan Magnussen. Pass, yeah, 15th and 16th miles off the pace. And I don't think we're going to see tomorrow Haas go for a quick run, because they said coming into testing that their focus is on how the car works with tires, and that's what they've been focusing on. As we now have a red flag, whether this red flag will continue or they'll just pull it in. All the cars now will come back into the pits. And I think, guys, considering we've got 13 minutes to go, they're doing this. I think I'm going to bring the stream to a close, because I think we've got through really day 2 of pre-season testing. A quick reminder, though, before I go, as to what the plan for tomorrow is. So I'll be live tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. UK time, Friday the 23rd, again tomorrow, for the final day pre-season testing, day 3 watch-along. And we'll be doing, obviously, a build-up to the afternoon session and then watching along the entire 4 hours of the afternoon session, the final 4 hours, of course, of testing. And then going to be a bit of a break over the weekend, because I've got some work I need doing, of course, uni work and stuff like that, stuff with the channel. And the next piece of content coming on the channel after tomorrow will be a full season preview stream on Wednesday, the 28th of February. That's in 6 days from now. I'll be going live for that at 6 p.m. UK time. And then, we'll be, in that season preview going through all the teams, drivers, how I think they'll all get on, and making my final predictions for the season. So make sure to come along for that in just under a week from now. But guys, that is basically it for pre-season testing day 2. Thank you guys for coming along. Been great to have you. Make sure to join me tomorrow. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, bottom right of the screen. You can do it right there. Smash that like button before you go. That'd really be a big help. If you could do that, it does help the channel grow. It helps us in the algorithm as well. Make sure to check out my latest recorded video from a couple of months ago about Lance Stroll, about why I think he's finished in Formula 1. Quite a popular video. Make sure to check it out. And as well, link below and a link in the chat as well to my Discord server. A great place that is for notifications for my videos, streams, and channel updates in general. And of course, plenty of channel updates will be coming in the next few days regarding content on the channel. But guys, that is it for day 2. And until a bit of an earlier start at 11:30 a.m. UK time tomorrow for the final day of pre-season testing in 2024, it has been me, Kazza HD. Goodbye.